It is 10:30 and the 9th of April 2025. And I must say at the beginning of this meeting, for me, and I'm sure for many Cabinet members, it's quite an emotional day because this is our last Cabinet meeting of this council. And for some of us, it is the last Cabinet meeting that we will be attending anyway, regardless of elections. So I'd just like to thank everybody for all their support over the years. It's been very much appreciated. That's a quite happy side of things this morning. But we do have some sadness as well, and I just think it's only right that we recognise Councillor Frank Lech died a couple of days ago. Distinguished member of this council, chair of scrutiny, very much respected right across political divide. So I'd just like us all to stand for a minute in a moment's silence, please. Thank you, everybody. And some may say that's quite unusual, but it's very unusual for a member to actually die while an elected member. So I thought it was only right that we recognise that. As far as apologies is concerned, I don't have any. Everybody's present and correct. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, members of the council. Any declaration? Yes, Councillor Phillips.
There'll be an item coming up in the part 2 for which I have an interest, so at that point I'll be leaving the room.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. That's noted. Thank you. Minutes of the meeting of the 12th of March. Are you happy I sign these as a true and correct record? Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. That's all signed and delivered. Take you on to item 4. Now I have a couple of issues under items requiring urgent attention. Firstly, just to notify that there will be an urgent item in part 2 at the end of the meeting. Something that just needs to be resolved for the election. So we'll come to that at the appropriate time. And the other item requiring urgent attention is something from East Devon Hattock, and Councillor Stewart Hughes will deal with that.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And this actually came up at the East Devon Hattock meeting last week when we were discussing the traffic regulation orders, and we discussed the zigzags outside of schools, and the issue that came up there that the committee felt that these should be mandatory, and many of them are advisory, and some parents do actually drop off and pick up and park on those zigzags. And so they agreed that Cabinet be asked to explore options to make school keep clear restrictions mandatory outside all schools by default, in line with the council's strategic priority of being ambitious for its young people. And so with that, Chairman, I wish to move that the Cabinet thanks the East Devon Highways Traffic Orders Committee for its debate and resolution, and ask officers to explore the implications to report back to the new Cabinet in due course. And so I so move.
And I'm happy to second that. Thank you very much. Just to go to our speakers, Councillor Lever, I don't think is online. I can't see her. So Councillor Carol Whitten.
Absolutely support that as a recommendation, and hope that when it comes back to the new members who are elected will be something that they can give serious consideration to.
Thank you. And to Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear this raised, actually. I've been looking at schools in my area, particularly the primary schools, where youngsters are dropped off. And to be frank, the behaviour of some of the people dropping youngsters off is extraordinary. It is so dangerous, and so I think this is a really important thing for us to look at and to do some work on and make some changes that absolutely stuck to, because the schools are really grateful, but they can't be outside and inside at the same time. Whereas when you're standing outside witnessing some of this appalling driving and bad parking just to drop their one off, it's, you know, so often it's just an accident waiting to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I don't think there are any questions in there. Any members of the cabinet want to say anything? Yes, Councillor Twiss.
I was just going to say, as a member of the East Devon HATOG, I'd be very happy to be the second on this. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So Councillor Hughes, I don't think there's anything more to say. Proposed and seconded as set out. All in favour? Thank you very much. So move on to item 5, announcements. There aren't any. Item 6, petitions. There aren't any. No questions from members of the council and no questions from members of the public. There are no framework decisions. So I take you to item 9, key decisions, connect to work programme funding, pages 1 to 15, and I go over to Councillor Gilbert. Over to you.
Start again. This is a £30 million government delivery programme getting people back to work, and in particular those experiencing significant barriers in doing so. It is aimed at those 18 years and above with disability, health conditions and other complex conditions across Devon, Torbay and Plymouth, and I propose motion before it. That's my lot, James.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gilbert. I'm very happy to second that. So I'm going to go down to my list again. Councillor Lever, I don't think it's still not online. So Councillor Whitten.
Thank you. Absolutely support the initiative and welcome the government's moves to help people who have particular disabilities and health issues to be supported into the workplace. That has got to be a good strategy. As far as this particular programme goes, I did note that there is quite some divergence between the different authorities that make up the combined council and Plymouth, and just slightly concerned, questioning perhaps how those different approaches will actually work on the ground and deliver the right results for people across the county. And of course, looking forward, how this will play out as local government changes are perhaps on the horizon. But I guess that those are all questions that is difficult to answer at this stage. But you know, those are just some slight concerns. But absolutely good to see that action is being taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Councillor Hodson.
Thank you. Yes, I really welcome this report and the fact that we are investing more in getting young people, you know, over that hurdle, because it is difficult, particularly for those who have been disadvantaged through disability or vulnerability. When they actually end their school time, it's quite a big sort of jump. And so I think these kind of work programs are really important. But my question is, it seems to me that we're actually withdrawing still further some of our expenditure on actually earlier youth services, which the universal access ones always allowed everybody to come together. And for youngsters who often end up with just mental health issues, which can be very, very disabling, a lot of the time it's because they don't really have access to just basic youth services. And I'm very disappointed that at the moment there's a reduction in funding going into Totnes, which I'm just now being made aware of, which is quite shocking. And I think we need to look at what we do before we actually have these youngsters at 18. I think we need to really focus far more on the younger provision as well, to make sure that we've got a streamline. Otherwise, we're just picking up problems, more problems that we're allowing to evolve. Not deliberately, I know, but the funding needs to maybe be recognised as very important in those earlier years as well.
Thank you. I don't know if there's some questions in there.
Well, my question really is, if I may say,
Yeah.
is that, you know, what are we doing to actually make sure that we have something before they get they get to 18?
I get, yes, thank you, thank you.
In response, I raised informally last week with the Department for Education the point, when you look at paragraph 2.1, that for our most complex young people, that we need to start transitions into employment as early as 14. So if there is the support of Cabinet today, then it was welcome that I could write formally to make that point, that 18, you know, young people develop at different ages and rates. So to say it's 18 plus doesn't give us that scope to work with those really vulnerable young people, maybe on an ascend pathway or a care leaver pathway, or a complex health pathway, that we would rather start working with those young people earlier. So I had a positive response from the department, and would welcome the opportunity to not see it as a hard stop age 18, because young people are not, it's not always age related. So I have raised that direct, received positively, but I would need the support of Cabinet to put that in writing, to send into the government, who would maybe look at how we can make sure that we target exactly those young people in those earlier transitions with this kind of support.
Thank you, Donna. Kerry.
Thank you very much. And for the question around the different operating models, Carol, this represents the existing modus operandi of the local areas and their capacity. I'll invite Phil Adams to make further comment, but this is to reassure an evolving programme. So whilst we will submit the plan into Department for Work and Pensions and move forward based on any feedback we have from them, further changes can be made as we move on, and also that we do have the benefit of learning from other areas generally as well. But Phil, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, just on the first point, Plymouth and Torbay, actually the way that we've approached this, because of that coherence issue, is that we've decided to work as a team on this, and we've been co-designing the piece. Officers are actually together for 2 days today, working through how those delivery models, how the in-house and out-house, it's probably the wrong way to put it, provision is going to work. And it is something that's very much on our mind. Around the future, DWP, one of the reasons they've asked us to deliver as the triumvirate is because they want to give as much flexibility for the future as they can, and then we can work with whatever comes. So they're cognizant of it as well. Going to the point about youth provision, absolutely, and on the national picture there is a lot to do. I think it's also just worth letting members know. Members may remember that we took the decision to bring CSW staff back in house, which is the transition staff, about a year ago. They actually joined us this week. So we have 30 new members of staff working with us on the transition service that joined the organisation on the 1st, and it's great to see them in-house. So there's a lot going on in that space, but yeah, additional resource is where we're going to need, and it is a massive issue for us across the rest of the piece.
Thank you, Phil. Just to take up the Chief Executive's offer to write to government, I think, Councillor Gilbert, I would certainly support that, and I'm sure you would, in terms of making sure that there is some flexibility there and not just sort of cut off age date that is making life difficult. So do I have Cabinet support for that? Yeah, absolutely. We have Cabinet support for that. Councillor Gilbert, the questions have been answered. I don't know if you've got any further comment.
No, I haven't.
Right, so it's proposed and set out, and also a letter from the Chief Executive regarding some flexibility in the sort of pre-18, post-18, to make sure that it actually reflects what the real world is like and not just arbitrary. So all those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. To move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 10A, the notices of motion. Could I just remind everybody, we're not here today to debate the notices of motion. That will happen on the 24th of April. We're here just to agree the cabinet recommendation. The first one is lowering the age of the voting to 16, 17. Councillor Atkinson. I think Councillor Atkinson's not actually here.
No, she was sent a copy of the recommendations.
She was. Have you had any comments?
No, Chair.
So I think we'll just well, I'll go around the list. I'm happy to propose as set out. Debate will be had at council. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davis seconds. Councillor Whitten.
Yes, happy to debate at full council. I just think it is worth noting that I believe Keir Starmer has issued a fresh statement either today or yesterday committing to lowering the voting age. So my take is that this is something that is definitely going to be happening, but we will discuss it next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's a matter for full council in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm sure there'll be those who support it and there'll be those perhaps aren't quite so keen. So that'll be matter for debate. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. I agree with the points that have already been made about, and I welcome the fact that we are moving in the right direction on this, because I think young people at 16 have an opportunity while they're still at school to have these conversations and understand more about the politics and elections, whereas when they are 18 and head off to university, sometimes they don't actually vote for a few years and then they don't get into the kind of the swing of it. So I think it's a really important element of people recognising their rights to democracy and feeling a bit responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet members. Yes, I think Councillor Crowd was first.
I'm marginally first, I think, probably. I'm the recommendation B here says welcomes the spirit of the notice of motion. Well, I don't agree with this. Lower the age of voting to 16 or 17, as Councillor Atkinson has proposed. Well, my grandson's 16 and he's got the attention span of a gnat or a sun reader, if you like. Quite frankly, his main preoccupation is the contents of my fridge. So until we actually get into proper debate with children, and let's face it, someone who's 16 is a child, then I can't support any sort of move towards lowering the voting age to 16. I've very much noticed that the Prime Minister has actually come out with the fact that if someone is 16 and can be shot at in defence of the country, which is palpable nonsense, because nobody can actually go to war until they're 18, which is the proper age, I think, then I can't support any movement towards lowering the age of voting to 16. So quite frankly, unless the start of recommendation B, which is welcomes the spirit of the notice of motion, is removed, then I can't vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowd. Councillor Gilbert.
Perhaps without repeating Councillor Crow's words, may I ask that before council clarity is sought on the Prime Minister's statement, as to the accuracy of the Prime Minister's statement vis-a-vis whether a 16-year-old, I have my own thoughts, but in the interests of diplomacy and politeness, may we have clarity on the Prime Minister's statement, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before council.
Before council, and obviously
Thank
that
you.
clarity could go in perhaps as part of the report that I don't know if there's time still to do that, just to have what the Prime Minister said, some clarity around that, and perhaps some clarity around the legal, you know, going to war, etc., at a certain age, etc. Be helpful.
I think if it's helpful, Chair, I think welcoming the spirit of the notice of motion, it was really around engaging young people in engaging young people in sort of democratic process in its wider sense. encouraging people to vote. You know, what we've been doing. Maria's done a piece of work already on our own elections and encouraging young people to be interested. So you've got two options. You could either remove the sentence if cabinet as a whole, or we could just clarify that in terms of what it actually meant to say, which was around engagement in its wider sense.
Thank you very much, Karen. I mean, to me, I read it the way you did, Karen, I have to say. And I did say that to Councillor Crone earlier, just to be transparent. But if we could just change the wording slightly to make sure it is that we need to engage our young people and get them interested in politics and engagement, I think, rather than make it sound perhaps as if we're actually signing up to the 16 and 17.
Yeah.
Could we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other cabinet members? No, thank you very much for that intervention. So with that slight adjustment, just to make sure it's clear, a cabinet member is happy to support the cabinet recommendation. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And to move on to B, which is possibly women, Councillor Lever. Now I know Councillor Lever's not present, but just to move forward, I'm going to go to Councillor Whitten.
Thank you. I honestly feel that it's not appropriate to comment on this because I am one of the women who was very much affected by this and certainly felt I suffered some injustice, and I would refrain from further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson.
Yeah, I'm in the same position, and I agree that it's inappropriate maybe to comment. But one thing I would say is that I do think that any government or anybody of authority should stick to what people believe is going to happen. I think the uncertainty that things like this have a major impact on people in society, and I think it makes everybody feel a bit sort of wobbly. So I just think it's got its real merits, and the WASPI women have done a really good job in highlighting this issue. Thank you.
Thank you both. I should have, before I came to you, moved the cabinet recommendation. I do apologise, I didn't do that, so I'm going to do it now. And do I have a seconder for that? Did any cabinet member want to comment? No? Right, so yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up, I will give some dispensation advice at full council for the discussion of this, so that members are all free to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Thank you. So it's moved and seconded. All those in favour, cabinet? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So I take you to other matters. Item 11, People First Strategy Action Plan, 6 monthly progress report. And I go over to Andrew Sabewell.
Thank you, Leader. A great pleasure in presenting this report, which is a progress and update report on the People Strategy. Cabinet members will recall that we agreed the strategy at Cabinet back in June 2023, and it was adopted by full council in September 23. So this report marks 18 months since the launch of the strategy, and the impacts measured continue to indicate a marked improvement in staff experience. For any culture change project, it's important that we identify the tangible impacts the actions are having, and crucially the value that's added by them. And so this paper and presentation that circulated outlines a detailed update on the significant progress of the 6 themes. But as with my previous update, I'll just draw your attention to some particular highlights. One of which, oh, apologies, I'll just pause for a moment. Right, apologies for that. One of the things I would like to highlight is that our absence rate continues to be lower than the national average for local government and is on a downward trend. The data for the 2024-25 confirmed an average of 8.9 days were lost per employee, which is down from the benchmark set in 21-22 of 9.6 days. We are seeing a good utilisation of the new staff benefits platform. And we've also seen 256 employees have purchased additional annual leave, which is an increase of 42% from the last purchase window, and it has generated approximately a saving of £140,000 for the organisation. There's a lot of other things in there as well, which is good. The action plan provides a transparent framework for accountability. It acts as a roadmap for cultural change and improvement within the authority. So I'm very happy to endorse this report and commend it. And whilst I have the floor, I would just finally like to add my thanks to the entire directorate for the work that they do. Our organisation is ultimately, our people are our organisation, without which none of the things we do, whether it's from filling in potholes, emptying drains, to looking after the most vulnerable people in our county, none of that would be possible without the workforce that we have. So I pay tribute to all of the staff in this organisation, but in particular our people and culture team, who have been at the forefront of modernising this organisation so that we can continue to provide high quality value for money services for the public as a whole. A lot of that work is done behind the scenes. It may not be the most sort of public facing directorate, but it is crucial to the smooth running of this organisation. I pay tribute to them and thank them for all the work that they do. Thank you, Leader. I'm very happy to move the report.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to second that. Go to Councillor Whitten.
Yes, it's very helpful to see all the data set out and the strategy set out here and progress made. I am just going to make two slightly negative comments, and that is I do note that the data on page 25, whilst very definitely going in the right direction, it is a comparison with 21-22, which was COVID, which must surely have been quite a low point. So look forward to the next set of data, which might give a more realistic perspective on how things are progressing. But having said that, the data does look reassuring, especially when comparisons are also made against the wider data available nationally or benchmarking. So just a slight caveat there. The other concern would be whether the involvement and positive feedback from staff has been impacted by the recent situation that happened over the contracts for mileage allowances or car travel allowances, and that again is something that perhaps will need to be looked at, whether that has had a negative impact. So that perhaps is a wait and see, but obviously a bit concerned that that whole process did not play out altogether well, although clearly it did eventually reach a satisfactory conclusion. The process was perhaps not what staff might have hoped for. Apart from that, just the perception as a general member, regardless of the statistics, which obviously are helpful, I think as members we do have a perception that staff are being well engaged, well talked to, that teams are forming in good ways, and that there is a culture developing which is a very positive staff focused one. So that just how it looks from the outside, and very grateful to Maria and the team for driving that forward. And of course, our chief executive, who has also gone the extra mile in team all staff meetings and supporting staff, as is very necessary on the journey that is to come over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I think Councillor Hodgson has left us.
Yeah, and Chair, she's just apologised that she has to leave the meeting.
That's okay. There was a sort of comment question there. I don't know, Maria, if you'd like, Maria Chakrabarti would like to comment.
Thank you, Chair. Just thank you for the comments. Firstly, Councillor Saywell, really much appreciated by the team, and would echo that in terms of the hard work that the team have put in developing the strategy and rolling it out. So thank you, Councillor Whitten, for your question. So firstly, in relation to the absence side of things, the official stats haven't been published in relation to it, so we can update with the official stats, but actually the absence has been reducing in that area. So I think your comments around COVID are very valid, but hopefully that will be supported in terms of the data as it follows. In terms of the essential car user allowance, it's been a very disappointing and frustrating process. I'm glad that we've reached an agreement now with the trade unions. So just to reassure you that we had set out a process at the start and agreed the plan of engagement and had been doing it over an 11-month period. We had 68% of the workforce that were receiving the allowance actually accepted the final offer. So there was a small proportion that still hadn't agreed to accept the offer when we finally reached agreement with the trade unions. But I would take your point, we need to learn some lessons from that and work with the unions about how we do things differently. So I am hopeful that the work we've done to establish foundations with the workforce will help with future engagement and make sure that staff still feel that they're able to share their voice and that they were engaged as part of any changes that we're making in the workforce.
Thank you. Before I go back to Andrew Saywell, any other cabinet member? Yes, Councillor Roger Crode.
Thank you, Chairman. There's an awful lot of good in this, actually. A couple of things I'd like to sort of bring forward is the recruitment of agency social workers into children's services. I note that there's 18 agency social workers have converted to permanent roles, which I think says a lot for the way we look after our workers in the county council. And the other bit that actually struck me as well is a stand up, speak up action plan. And I would suggest that if we rolled this over to the previous notice of motion, i.e. the lowering of the voting age to 16, then all people should be involved in the stand up, speak up action plan type of thing, which actually involves people getting involved with, or young people getting involved with politics anyway. So yeah, I'm very much in favour of this, and it's, as I said earlier on, it contains an awful lot of good stuff, and I think Maria and Andrew here should be congratulated on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Any other cabinet member? Councillor Saywell.
Thank you, Leader. As far as absence rates are concerned, yes, we'll get that data once it's available. But again, what I'm encouraged by is our benchmarking against the LGA, which is for 22-23, which is outside of the COVID period, still shows us well ahead of that, and that is a good thing. Yes, negotiations over the essential cars users, which was an operational matter at officer level. Yes, I think it's fair to say that it did get bumpy, but what I would also comment on, I think there were very big lessons for our trade unions in Devon to learn from it as well. But I think going forward, we've got good relations again, and I would be confident that we won't have the same sort of issues coming forward because the relationship has been reset. So onwards and upwards, and can I thank everyone for the kind comments, and again commend the work of the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Saywell. It's proposed and seconded as set out. So all those in favour, Cabinet? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. On to item 12, standing items. We've got minutes, and we've got the minutes of the Devon Education Forum of the 19th of March. And at that meeting, note minute 166, they put forward, they wanted the case to be put to our new MPs and etc. Special educational needs, fair funding. So there's a recommendation for the new council below there. And I don't know, Councillor Lois, if you'd like to speak to this.
Thank you. Yes.
Lois Samuel, sorry.
Yes, so I had the opportunity to just share to Devon Forum about the work of F40 and how important it is, and stress that actually, you know, it is a cross-party working group, and so it was expressed that actually we do need to have a bit more communication with our MP, and obviously it could be my last time standing as a cabinet member for SEND, so just wanted to put that in writing really to encourage that we do need cross-party working, even as councillors around SEND, and how important it is for reform to come as soon as possible. So that's what that's about. Thanks, Chair.
So you're formally proposing the cabinet recommendation?
Yes, I propose that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to second that. Thank you very much. Councillor Whitten.
Sorry, just quickly reading that paragraph. I think you're referring to page 78. Yes, definitely that sounds an appropriate procedure. So support that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. I haven't got any other speakers. Any other cabinet members want to comment? No. So it's proposed and seconded for the cabinet recommendation to make sure that the new council engages with Devon MPs regarding fair funding for schools, special educational needs process, etc. So all those in favour? Thank you. That's clearly carried. Item 13, delegated matters. Anyone want to raise anything on the delegated matters? No. And item 14, the forward plan. No. Just before I move to part 2, I'd just like to take this opportunity in the public arena on behalf of the whole cabinet to thank staff of the County Council in the way in which they've worked with us over the last 4 years. For myself, and I'm sure I speak for my cabinet colleagues, it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure to be Devon's representatives and working with such a committed, dedicated team across the council. And I think we've moved an awful long way in the last 4 years. When we got elected, it was at the end of COVID and life was still pretty difficult. Life is still difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but I myself, and I know my cabinet colleagues, when we talk about it, have observed how the senior management team is working very much more cohesively as a team. And I know the chief executive, when there are various issues, the team gets called in to see how we're going to sort it. It's not just one specific department. And I think that is a real change that is of great benefit to how the county council runs now and in the future, and a great benefit to the residents of Devon and how the county council is being run. So on behalf of the cabinet, I'd just like to thank you all very much. Donna.
And just equally so on behalf of our colleagues, the whole staff group, not just colleagues that are here today, but you know, my line always is that our members are our frontline colleagues and partners. We do very different roles. You know, I've said this at scrutiny committees recently, and it's important to say at cabinet that we really appreciate your support and your challenge, and as it does feel like a partnership. As I say, our roles are very different, but you're always there. Equally so when there's a challenge, and I say that to all the councillors in the room and online, that you know, when we face our most challenging times, there is a sense of Team Devon from the political representatives, and that focus on getting it right. So we really appreciate that, and just like today, there are lessons learned in everything that comes to this table, and the questions that we get, that the advice that we get, and you know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of that, as well as what happens here. So we really appreciate that, and we just want to thank you. We can't thank you enough at times, because you take that public face to those difficult decisions, and you make those decisions. So it's genuinely appreciated on behalf of all the staff group. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure if anyone who's listening online, they're probably saying, oh, they're having a bit of a love in, aren't they? But I don't think anyone who's not an elected member or an officer of the county council perhaps sometimes can understand there are very difficult issues that we have to wrestle with, and you can't avoid them. You have to deal with them. And you only can successfully deal with them with a partnership approach. And I'm sure that's what we've had here. So thank you. So I'm going to move part 2 now. Do I have a seconder to part 2? Yes, Councillor Davis. So could we turn off the technology?
Yeah, just bear with us a few seconds, Chair. We'll just get confirmation.